Real YouTube is talk about bad moves. Today we are talking about the worst move in the game, which is, I guess, kind of debatable actually, but probably worst move right now. Anyway, hello. What's going on? Today we're talking about something interesting that has been a topic of discussion, like kind of on and off for a while now. But basically, yesterday a lot of people on Twitter were talking about ally switch. So I'm not going to beat around the bush, and how this move is unhealthy and or whether or not it's healthy, etc., etc. So, for those of you who don't know, ally switch is a move that is completely useless in single battles, but in double battles has a rather large effect. It switches the position of your Pokemon on the battlefield, aka the Pokemon on the left goes to the Pokemon or goes to the right slot, and then the Pokemon on the right goes to the left slot. It seems like relatively straightforward, and you wouldn't think it's that problematic, but it is a really interesting move because there's a couple things that make this move pretty scary to go up against. One of which is that the distribution is rather large. If we look at who gets it, by level up, you see it's not too many Pokemon. Like, it's actually not very many Pokemon at all. But then we look and see that it's a TR. So, Alolan, Raichu, Clefable. I'm not going to read all these. I'm just going to scroll through because you can see that it's like, we're still in Kanto, right? Like, we haven't even got out of Kanto yet. And then, like, if I keep scrolling, you can see that, like, there's a lot of Pokemon. Even Pokemon that, like, would never normally run it, like Metagross, right? Like, gets it pretty much almost every Psychic type, but it's not just Psychic types. Togekiss, PZ, pretty much just everything gets it. The Rotoms, Cresselia, Gothitelle, Mienshao, Chandelure, Clefairy gets it as well. There's just like Ribombee, Comfey, it's a big one, Comfey, and Lego I didn't even know got it. Stack Attack gets it, why? Yeah, so Dragapult. So as you can see, there's a lot of Pokemon that get this move. So distribution is the first problem. The second problem is that the effect itself is not something that's normally easy to cover for. The issue with ally switch is that basically, like, until you've seen that your opponent has it, it's basically just like and if your opponent doesn't cover for it in a lot of situations, it's just like a free, it's a free surprise factor, that like can pretty significantly impact the tide of the battle. So, for example, let's say like my opponent is Porygon 2, right? A Pokemon which normally is going to run Trick Room, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Recover, right? Or maybe Tri Attack on there over one of the moves, right? But let's say my opponent is Ally Switch Porygon 2, and I don't know if I have like a fighting type, and I try to click Close Combat and they Ally Switch next to their Alolan Marowak, then my turn is just wasted, and most of the time I'm not gonna Close Combat an Alolan Marowak. Because I don't want to lose the game just immediately. So until you see that the opponent has it, it's something that is like really difficult to cover for, because like I've done this before. I specifically remember doing like in tournament I did like a super stupid move into a P2 because I was used to like I think it was P2 Landorus, and I was used to the Landorus ally switching, and like the Porygon 2 didn't even have ally switch, so I was just being dumb. So yeah, it's very, very, very difficult to cover. Now you might say, okay, well, what about once you know that the opponent has ally switch? What does that do to the game? Well, the unfortunate thing is that in a lot of situations it turns it into a guessing game. Now, ideally, once you know the opponent has ally switch, there are certain things you can do that will cover all their options, right? Spread moves hit both targets. Doubling up into a Pokemon can often like yield good results in this situation, or you can hard read it. There are options to deal with it. However, the issue is that if your opponent knows you have ally switch and you have it, like let's say you have ally switch Dusclops, right? Every turn your opponent has to think like, okay, are they going to ally switch? Or you have to think, are they going to ally switch or are they just going to attack? Because if you predict an ally switch and they don't do it, it's effectively the same effect, right? You targeted the Pokemon you didn't want to target. And although, like I mentioned, there is counterplay, right? There's taunt. There is. It's really about how you target and how you position, right? Spread and using good spread moves as well. Yeah. So it's not like there isn't counterplay, but it's a very frustrating move to go up against. And in often cases, like a lot of times the Pokemon, like the game will feel like like if it's out of your control, it feels like players often like to blame the game, right? Like that's something that happens often, and I don't personally think I don't think the game takes I don't think all the blame the game receives is fair. I think a lot of times when people lose due to factors that are like a little bit outside of their control, it's more in their control than they may initially realize. But regardless of that, losing to Alice, which feels very different, right? It's one thing to lose because you missed a Rock Slide or a Snarl or something, right? That's kind of just like part of the variance that we accept when we play the game. But Alice, which feels almost like a little bit more, it's like almost like it's a little bit more frustrating because like rather than like, this isn't how I think about it personally, but a lot of players will refer to ally switch as a 50-50. I don't think it's actually a 50-50 most of the time, but yeah, like it almost feels like worse to lose to ally switch because it feels more in your control, right? But the thing is that it's just a lot of times players will conceptualize it as just like a pure guessing game. Again, I don't think that a lot of the times it is actually a guessing game. I do think that there oftentimes are like smart ways you can play around it. But yeah, that's how a lot of people feel. So, in terms of like what you can do about ally switch, I think the big thing, like I mentioned, is the way that you target, and the way that you play, and the way that you position, or the way that you position specifically, and the way, the targeting and positioning are big. I feel like I had a lot of trouble with ally switch in the early format, but lately I feel like it's been easier to cover. Maybe people just aren't using it as much. The other thing about ally switch is that, like, although it can cheese you some wins, it's also like it's kind of a dead slot a lot of the time. Like, ideally, all of your moves are doing something, right? And although ally switch might give you some cheese, like, it's kind of hard to justify because it doesn't actually do anything, right? In the worst case scenario, right? Like, if I have Haze Dustclops, right? Then I always have this tool that I can use to, like, in certain situations that I can play around, I can set up for, right? I know that if my opponent boosts, I can haze it away. I'm not, I know if I get intimidated, I can haze it away. But let's say I'm running ally switch instead. Like, ally switch just allows me to play, it allows me to flip coins, or it allows me like a little bit more variance, and ideally the variance goes in my favor. But yeah, like if you click ally switch and the opponent just reverses their targeting, like you basically have wasted your turn. I think that's why I don't like it personally. And I have used it. I brought it to tournament and I was so bad with it. Like I brought it to Collinsville Regionals and I was so bad with it. Like I think every time I clicked it wrong. I think I brought it to the Players Cup 1 Invitational, and I had the same experience there, where like every time I clicked it, it just didn't work. So I'm just not good with this move as well. So I think I'm kind of done with it for now. But yeah, in my opinion, it's kind of like, I don't want to call it a waste of a slot because we've been talking about how good it is or like how frustrating it is. But it's also like it's not super consistent, I think is what I'm trying to say here. Like, although it's frustrating to go up against, like, it's not a very consistent move because, yeah, like, number one, it's just, like, if your opponent guesses correctly, like, assuming, if your opponent either guesses correctly or covers your options properly, then you're just, like, wasting a move. And, yeah, also, like, you're wasting your own move slot on something that doesn't actually do anything to, like, advance the flow of the game, right? Like every move on your team will do something, but ally switch has the potential to just do nothing, you know? I don't know if I'm like explaining that properly. Does that make sense? Like, every move does something, but ally switch is just it just gives you the chance to do something, but if you're wrong, like, or if your opponent calls it correctly, then it literally does nothing. It's a very unique move in that sense. So yeah. In terms of how I would like this move changed, honestly, I think the best way to fix it is just to change the way that it works in terms of consecutive uses. This isn't an original idea. I know other people have mentioned this as well, but I do agree with it. Like Protect, for example. If you use Protect, it always works, right? If you use it twice in a row, then it only has a 1 in 3 chance to work. It used to be 50%, but now it's, a 1 in 3 chance to work. So I think I'd like to see something similar for ally switch. You can use it once. And then, you get your little cheese off, but then the next turn is very unlikely to work again, which means that your opponent has some security at that point targeting properly, because honestly, the first turn, like the second, after you see ally switch, the second turn after that is the scariest, in my opinion, because then you know it's there, right? The first turn, you're just like happy-go-lucky, not a care in the world, just playing some Pokemon, and the next turn you're sweating because you're like, well, are they gonna do it again, right? Like, is that what they're thinking? So, yeah. That's kind of my opinion. I also wouldn't mind if the distribution was changed. Like, if at some point it wasn't a TR, I think that'd be good. Like, if these Pokemon got ally switch, fine, right? Like, okay, you're Alakazam, you're Mr. Mime, you're Mr. Rhyme, you're Orbeetle, you're Rheniclus, you're Latios, they can ally switch. But like, we don't need these Pokemon to get it. I think fundamentally, it just doesn't add anything good to the game, right? Like yes, you add some random variants that like maybe, I don't know, maybe like something that the developers wanted in the game, but realistically, I think this is kind of like an oversight. I don't think they realized how good this was. It's not even that good. It's just really annoying, right? I don't think they realized how, like, this is like, if you like, I don't know. I have a philosophy about how I like to play Pokemon. This move does not fit into that philosophy. I'm not going to sit here and trash people who want to use the move because, like, my philosophy isn't necessarily right, but it This move just doesn't really feel right to me, right? It doesn't align with me. There are people who swear by this move, and for good reason. You will get wins with this move, right? This move will earn you wins that you probably shouldn't have gotten, assuming your opponent doesn't have information. Even with information, it's still a hard move to deal with. But I don't believe that it's super consistent. I don't believe it holds up at a super high level most of the time. Like, you know, there are exceptions, right? I think players can use, like, it's a good move, so players can use it and do well with it. But I don't know. I don't have much faith in it. I don't want to use it again. It just felt like a waste whenever I had it. So, but that might just be me. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about it. This is like, I don't know if this is like objectively the worst move in the game. Like, I think Geomancy might be the worst move in the game, but I also just hate Xerneas, so maybe that's why. I would have said Dark Void. Dark Void is so much worse, to be clear. Like, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with Dark Void anymore, because that, like, even with only one Pokemon getting it, it was the stupidest move. Although I guess Feeny helped with that, but regardless. Yeah, I don't know. Like, a lot of people hate this move more than anything, for good reason. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't like it very much, personally. I don't think it does good things for the game. I don't like playing against it, and I don't like using it. So, yeah, I would not mind at all if they nerfed it or removed it from Next Generation. It was, like, a really cool concept. Like, I remember back in 2011 when it was first introduced, I think Beheeyem was the only user back at, like, in initial Gen 5. It wasn't a TM back then. I think it was legitimately only Beheeyem. And, like, it was, like, cool. Like, I remember looking at it and, like, thinking about it in concept, but, like, I just couldn't justify using Beheeyem, right? And I think it'd be cool if it was a move like that, with, like, very limited distribution, and ideally on Pokemon that weren't very good. So, like, if you saw one of those Pokemon and you had had done your work in advance and knew which Pokemon their Ally Switch, you could at least, like, have a good sense going in. But at this point in the game where, like, so many Pokemon learn it, so many good Pokemon too, Clefairy, Porygon 2, Dusclops, even Pokemon like Genjar and Marowak aren't bad. Articuno, P2 we already mentioned, like, there's so many good Pokemon that learn this move. Shedinja, Sableye, like, I don't know. Bronzong, Togekiss would run it sometimes. Like, Follow Me, Alice was Togekiss was annoying. PZ, like, I don't know. There's a lot of good Pokemon that learn this move, and, like, it's too many Pokemon that, like, you just can't cover for all of it, you know? So, yeah, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think the worst move in the game is. I think it might be Geomancy. I honestly, if I could remove one move from the game, I'd remove Geomancy every day of the week. If I could remove two, the second one's probably Ally Switch. I don't think I hate anything more than I don't think there's anything I'd rather remove than Ally Switch other than Geomancy. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.